Nourished so far, and we have more food, more good food to digest with our presence in our mind. And we have Vincent Hao Chin Jr., and he's the president of the Golden Link College Foundation. It's a Theosophical school in the Philippines. Maybe we will hear a little bit more about Theosophy if we have a chance. He has conducted the Self-Transformation Seminar in 18 countries around the world, and has served as the director of the School of Wisdom in India, in Chennai, in South India. He's published several books, such as The Process of Self-Transformation, Why Meditate, on Education, and edited the chronological edition of the Mahatma Letters to A.P. Sinnett, Mahatma here in Mahatma Gandhi, probably. He has served as the president of the Theosophical Society in the Philippines and the Indo-Pacific Federation of the Theosophical Society. And he's going to be sharing about self-transformation and education. So we're very honored to have you here, sir, and please share.
Good morning, brothers and sisters. This morning, I'd like to share with you about the experience of Golden Link College in the use of self-transformative approaches as well as awareness. It is something very similar to mindfulness, and it will be a bit difficult to digest this experience in 20 minutes, but I'll try my best to give you an idea about our own experience in this. So first, let me just give you a background of Golden Link. It was established in 2002, so it's now about 13 years already. It has 530 students with preschool, primary school, secondary, and tertiary. It offers 5 bachelor's degrees, including 2 for education. And it's one of the 5 schools of the Theosophical Society in the Philippines. Now, just for your information, the Theosophical Society is a worldwide organization founded about 140 years ago in New York. It is non-sectarian, it has no dogmas or doctrines, but it promotes global unity or global oneness, oneness of all life, character building, wisdom, and spirituality. The background of our main school, Golden Link College, comes from the Self-Transformation Seminar mentioned a while ago. The seminar is about integrating our ideals and spiritual principles with daily life. That's something very difficult, and it took us many, many years in order to integrate them, and it proved to be very helpful to many people. As mentioned earlier, it has been offered not only within the Philippines, but in 18 countries in the world. And as a result of that, we developed it into a youth camp for young people from ages 13 to 25. For 4 days, they just live in one place. And we received so much feedback from the parents that during those 4 days' time, their children, whether boys or girls, go into drastic change. And because of that, we were encouraged to think of a formal school wherein which these principles, these practices can be applied into a formal school setting. And this developed into Golden Link College. It used to be Golden Link School before, but after we opened up our tertiary degrees, then it became a college. Now, the purpose of the school is to address the main issues about life. What is education for life? Normally, probably not only in the Philippines, but all over the world, the purpose of schools is to be able to give degrees, skills, and when they graduate, they have a good job and be competent in their careers or professions. But life is not simply about earning money or about having a stable career, but something else. We must also address inner equanimity and happiness. What's the point of being a multi-billionaire if somebody commits suicide? It means nothing at all. What is the point of becoming very famous or powerful if we don't feel joy, inner peace in life? The third facet is to have wisdom in living. And just some examples of the facets of these three areas. Like in effectiveness in life, it is not simply about knowing accounting or engineering, but also the capacity for self-discipline to achieve what one wants to do. Then on inner equanimity, it requires a quality of self-understanding, inward awareness, including the absence of push buttons. I'll speak about that later in one's life. Then the capacity for love, service, and cheerfulness. And wisdom in living includes things like core values, character building, compassion, and spirituality. Now, these are covered in various programs. I'll not go into details, but basically it involves personal self-mastery, character development, right philosophy of life, and the development of competencies, even social competencies. Now, in our lives, we will notice that there are many things which are important to us. It can be health, it can be life work, it can be relationships, happiness, or service to others. But we will notice that these things would not work at all when there's a problem with this thing called the self, the individual. And when a person tries to live the higher life, like the spiritual life, trying to live a self-actualized life, then you'll find that it's even more important that self-preparation be done properly. It is for this reason that the whole educational system of Golden Link College is based on self-transformation. It must start from within us. Otherwise, we will have problems in relationships if I constantly get angry. We will have problems in our work whenever our relationship with people is not good. We'll have problems with health if we have no self-mastery. Many people, for example, don't realize that whenever they are angry with people, at that moment, they cannot love people. And this reason is simple. If I'm angry at you or at anybody else, what would I like to do to you? I'd like to hurt you if I'm angry with you. It doesn't matter whether you're my wife, you're my son or daughter, or my parents, if I'm angry with you, because the nature of anger is aggressive. It wants to hurt people. How can I love a person whom I'd like to hurt? I cannot. And hence, whenever there is a tendency for anger, then that capacity for love is absent, at least for that moment. There are 7 indicators of distress which are embedded in many people. And whenever these indicators are present, there is a problem in the individual. And these are found in the personality, the conditioned personality of the individual. I'll go into it in a few minutes' time, but let me just go through the 7. When a person feels inclined to be hurt because of something that may be said by other people, fear, worry, and anxiety, they belong to one family. Whenever a person is worried, there is fear involved. Because when there's no fear, then it is not worry, it is concern. You're concerned about something and you act on it. But when there is worry, then there is something upsetting, something distressful in that worry. Then irritation, anger, and rage, they also belong to one family. It's just a matter of degrees. Resentment and hatred, loneliness and depression, guilt and aversion. And I think it is part of human maturity that all these things diminish in our lives. Otherwise, they become obstacles to the full development of an individual. So let me speak and give a bit more focus on this task of inner awareness, because it is the foundation of self-transformation, which is in turn the foundation of our educational system. Inner awareness involves at least 3 things at the beginning. First is awareness of our body, like removal of stress. This was spoken about in the past sessions that we had. The second is emotional awareness, which is releasing distresses, traumas, phobias, anger, hatred, guilt, and other push buttons. The third would be mental awareness, which brings about mental equanimity. And this all results in various outcomes, like effective relationship, effective communication, effectiveness in decision-making, and so on. Now, let me just give a brief background about the dynamics of this. If we look into ourselves, you'll notice that there are several layers of our consciousness. The first one is our physical body. The second one is our emotional nature. The third one would be our mind. But the mind is composed of 2 levels. One is an ordinary mind, which even animals have, but the other is an abstract, impersonal mind, which is the basis of pure rationality. And it is this one, the higher mental, is objective rationality. And let me just go on. And beyond that is what we may call the transpersonal, beyond the individual, and then the transcendent. I'll not go too much into that for want of time, but these lower 3 would constitute what we call personality. Persona in psychology means a mask, which is an outer nature of ourselves, as opposed to our inner nature, which is the individuality, which is this one. Now, this outer nature of personality is something which is the product of conditioning, upbringing, education, social influence, and it is characterized by needs and desires. And basically, it is self-centered. It thinks about its own benefit and needs. On the other hand, the higher one, our inner nature, is different. In our higher impersonal mind, we are objective. We are not biased. We are not in favor of this or that. Then this also the root of impersonal values. If something is true, it is true regardless of whether it benefits me or harms me. Then this is the basis for compassion, love, and prajna, the spiritual nature of a human being. Compassion or love here is very different from romantic love in the lower triangle. Romantic love in the lower triangle is based on need. I love you because I need you. And if I don't need you anymore, then I don't love you anymore. I love you because you're beautiful. If you're no longer beautiful, sorry, we part. But in the higher triangle, there is no such conditions. If I care for you, no matter what happens to you, I care for you, period. And that is impersonal. And we are all capable of doing this. We are usually composed of these 2 levels, all of us. And then the transcendent is the one that goes beyond our normal humanity. One goes into nirvana, moksha, or other states that are truly transcendent. Now, all of us have this problem about our conditioning and our higher nature. There is a constant battle between these 2, and the task of the spiritual life is about integrating this with the higher as the more dominant one. Now, let me just explain a bit about push buttons. This lower triangle, our personality, has a lot of garbage under it. Also a lot of beautiful things. Here I have put some symbols here about the black and white ones. It's just a symbol that there are negative push buttons. If a person has fear, let's say, of snakes, he has a push button about snakes because no baby is afraid of snakes. If you're afraid of heights, you were taught to be afraid of heights because no baby is afraid of heights, although it's afraid of falling. There are only 2 natural fears of babies. One is the fear of loud sounds, and the other is the fear of falling. When you ask a baby to crawl on a table, even if there's glass on it, it will stop at the visual end because of this instinctive fear. All other fears that we have, fear of death, fear of the dark, fear of failure, fear of rejection. These are all taught to us as we grow up. And they become push buttons. There are also positive push buttons, like if I get excited when I see my uncle, I feel joyful or glad, that's another push button. And these are in our subconscious. These push buttons, to the best of my understanding, has been referred to by the writings of Thich Nhat Hanh as the seeds of the stored consciousness. When these seeds are punctured, then they will emerge and then will have a result in terms of our behavior. These are formed during experiences. For example, even if you're not afraid of snakes, for example, and there's a snake over here, you will notice a tension in your body which is unpleasant. That tension is a natural arising of an energy which is self-protective. But when this energy is kept there and not allowed to flow naturally, then it becomes a push button. When unreleased, it goes there. And a person who gets uncomfortable about snakes at the age of 5 may retain it even for 50 years. Some of you may have fears about cockroaches or snakes. I've often asked elderly people, how long have you been afraid of heights or of the dark or snakes? They'd say, since my childhood. And this can be, 40, 50, or 60 years. And yet, if on that day, that push button is allowed to flow and release, then that fear or phobia of snakes disappear completely on that day, usually within an hour. We've been conducting the seminar as well as the youth camp for about 20 years, and every time we do this, it is something that we see that is happening. It is not just a change in one day or in 1 hour's time, but permanently. And this is the result of awareness. Now, this push button can be triggered by many things. Like, for example, it can be triggered by a dream, by a picture. A person who is afraid of snakes cannot look at a picture of a snake comfortably. Now, that person may be a PhD, and yet if you show a picture of a snake, there will be fear there. He knows that this is just a picture and not a snake, and yet the reaction will still be fear. So what's the problem? The problem is not about the snake. The problem is about the push button that is in there that has been triggered off and will react in terms of fear or resentment or hatred. When this is allowed to flow, then that phobia immediately disappears. Phobia, resentment, trauma, or other things. In the past years, we've been asked to help. As you know, in the Philippines, on the southern part, there's a problem between Christians and Muslims. And oftentimes there are battles going on. And people have traumas because they have to evacuate when there are battles going on. And we were asked to help removing the traumas of people who are subject to these kinds of experiences. And we use this approach. There are thousands of push buttons that we have, you and I, and it is best that we should clean them up. Clean them up as early as we can. And in education, we must do two things. One is that we help remove from the children these push buttons that are negative, and we prevent new push buttons that are harmful to be put into the child. Here are examples of what we do. When we have youth camp, for example, I would sometimes borrow a snake. Sorry for those who have phobias of snakes. You will have a reaction with this picture. But take note, this will not bite you. It's just a projection from the projector. But I tell you, anybody who is phobic about snakes will have a reaction just because of this. It's not about the snake. It's about your push button within you. So sometimes I would borrow snakes because I know that many people are afraid to touch snakes. But after an hour, everybody would be able to go and touch snakes, put them on their necks, and smile and take pictures. I have had severe cases of phobia. One girl, I did not know when she joined our youth camp. She was hospitalized for 5 days because of a dream of snakes. When she woke up, her whole body was paralyzed and could not even move. And she had to stay in the hospital for 5 days before she became normal. And she joined our youth camp when I borrowed a snake, and I did not know about that. And when she saw the snake, her whole body became so stiff like a zombie, like that. And so I asked the whole group to go out to the garden to teach the others about handling snakes, and I stayed with her. In less than an hour, she was able to touch the snake, and she even dared to do something I wouldn't do. She stroked the snake with her left hand, and the snake was coiled. The snake was coiled like this, with a head like that. And she used her right hand to touch the head of the snake. I would not do that. I'm not afraid of snakes, but I would not do that. But she did. That shows how free she was from this phobia of snakes. And it was after that that I learned that her father had phobia of snakes. She learned it from her father. And the father was there in the youth camp. And when she saw the daughter doing that, you know what she did? She went to the back of the girl and tried to touch the snake behind the girl. Yeah. Is it already? 3 minutes. All right. Okay. So these are some. Now, the function of awareness is first, to release the push button within us from the past. And second is to prevent new push buttons from forming. And the third, it is in preparation for higher meditation and integrated learning. So let me just go through some of the background things in the school in terms of how we try to apply these principles in the culture of the school. We need to develop a wholesome environment so that children do not develop unwholesome push buttons. So for example, there are two principles in teaching. One is there should be love, and second, there should be firmness. One cannot be without the other. You spoil a child when you are just loving without being firm. You make a child rebellious if you are just firm but without love. No fear. The teachers cannot use fear to motivate students. Whenever a teacher does that, we teach them how to do so. But oftentimes, when we hire teachers from the outside, they find it very difficult to do these things, like no fear but with respect. And it's easier to threaten students in order to make them feel disciplined. We give them 1 year to adjust to this. If they cannot, they have to go, sorry. And so this, in fact, resulted in our establishing our own collegiate department to a bachelor's degree in education. Here is an example about the office of our administrator. She's the second highest official in the college. This is her office, and anybody can go there and play whenever the door is open. When there are visitors, they know that they're not supposed to go there. But they can go there, they can even sleep there if they wish to. That's the office. It's higher than the principal. Then there should be intrinsic motivation. I'll not dwell too much. We don't have punishment in the school. We explain why something should not be done. There are no contests. Whenever we have speech programs, we don't choose the best ones to go to the stage. Everybody, 530 students from 3 years old up to 21 years old, they all go to the stage one by one. We invite the parents. And it takes us 3 days to finish the program. 3 days, not 3 hours. But the effect on them is dramatic. They lose their fear about mistakes, public opinion. They become natural. And if you suppose one of our students would be here and she's not prepared, you ask them, can you come and speak and say something? They will. Even if they make mistakes in grammar or in English or ideas, they feel accepted as they are. In school, we try to let them become the best that they can be without comparison. We don't have medals or honors. We don't give first honor, valedictorian, or what. And it is just a principle of excellence. We have a culture of handshaking in the school. Whenever I come, I would shake more than 100 hands, look at them and smile at them and say good morning to them. It changes their perception of themselves because they feel accepted every day. And when there are many people who are shaking their hands. Our canteen is vegetarian. I think we may be the only school in the Philippines with full vegetarian canteen, no soft drinks. Then we have sessions, year-round sessions in the development of self-awareness in students, emotional and social maturity, effectiveness in relationship. We teach them meditation. Every class, every day, they go into a silence. From kindergarten, it's 5 minutes. Then for the higher levels, 10 minutes. And for sessions like this, it will be 20 minutes or more. Then we have a course on self-transformation. It is a required subject that they cannot graduate without going through this. It is 1 semester. Then relationship skills. Then we engage them in service work towards other people like this one. They try to tutor younger students as part of their service work. Then we provide community scholarship, in which the students are the ones who are handling this. Then helping the poor, going to the poorest households in the community, and then a youth camp, a yearly youth camp, and continuous faculty development, because the key to this school is its faculty. Okay, so I've mentioned that. Then we have 26 character qualities which we'd like to nurture through the years when students go through Golden Link College. Then we provide from high school upwards a philosophy of life which we consider as wholesome. I'll not go into the details, but those are courses which we've added to our college level courses in addition to what the government requires. And in the right philosophy of life, we ask them to ask these questions. What is the purpose of life? Where do we go after death? What is wisdom in living? What are the laws of nature? And so on. How do we attain effectiveness? Then, to become excellent, the quest to become a self-actualized or very mature individual, the law of karma, creation of our destiny, unity of humanity, and unity of life. Then we have to educate the parents, because the problem, we don't have problem children, we have problem parents. They are the source of many of the dysfunctions of our students. Now let me just share with you one or two examples of what students say after they graduate. I'll choose one from the high school department, and this part of their graduation speeches. When they graduate, if we have 30 graduates, every graduate speaks, not just the best student. So here, for example, is a high school student. He said, "I truly feel that we are one big happy family here in Golden Link. All the teachers are kind and show genuine concern towards the students. There are many things here in Golden Link that cannot be found in any other school. I really like this school. If there is one school that I can never forget, that is none other than Golden Link School." Here is one from a college. She just graduated last March. "My love for Golden Link College will never end. You have changed my life as you have changed the lives of all the students. You are not just an academic institution. You are a school of life." One more. "Golden Link has a unique approach in education. It has transformative ways that develop our inner self and allow us to discover our full potential. GLC helped me to become more confident, efficient, and productive person that I can hardly recognize myself from what I was before." Now, there are a few more others, but I'll not flash them to you anymore. But what I'd like to mention here is that I believe that young people are the key to a new future humanity. We are already greatly conditioned. We hear. But young people are fresh. They're capable of absorbing new ideas, strange ideas even, and then try to integrate this and apply this. One of the remarkable things that we notice in our school is that students tend to be more honest. Because there's no punishment, there's no fear, they can say, "Oh, I did that," and they're ready to apologize because of the culture, the campus culture. And the way to influence young people, I believe, is through school. The project a while ago about the ambassadors, I think that's a great program in order to reach out for more. And I believe that spiritual movements should establish schools. And I would suggest, Brother Pap, please go and establish schools, as many in the world as you can, because it's going to really transform people when they come across this. And when they start from young, it will really become a permanent part of their lives. I trust that we all become educators in one way or another and integrate all these factors, mindfulness, awareness, self-transformation, values, into such education.
So thank you very much, Vicente. I hope I had been in that school. I'm sure many of us would like to be in Gold Link School. And it was interesting that the first slide that Vicente showed was the Theosophical Society in Chennai. And when Thai came to give a retreat in 1997 to India, we had the retreat there. So Thai was teaching in the same center that, which is the headquarters of the Theosophical Society, out of which this thinking came out. Also, as you can see, that the similarity between the idea of push buttons and seeds and watering the seeds, and of course the whole element that the theme of this conference, that peace in oneself, peace in the world, and how to develop the peace and transformation within to create the peace and transformation in society. So thank you very much, Vicente, for that. And also we realize that there's so much wisdom and goodness all across different countries in Asia or across the world, and that we can learn from each other in this way. So at least the Asia Pacific now, and maybe a bit of Europe too. Sorry, I forgot Australia. And Africa, and Latin America. Anyway, we have everyone here. So, but it's amazing. I went to Brazil 2 years ago, and the level of amazing initiatives there. Just we don't know about them because they're in a different language culture.